able to join us through Ted Guinness's Pro Wrestle Review channel. There we go.
Yay!
Even more methodologies you can find us this week and
Boom.
every week.
All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. Here's what since we were babbling before I went live. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put Phil back in here, but every time someone scores a point, Phil's gonna get negative points.
I kind of like the word that I made up, and y'all just actually blew right past it. Posthumous points.
Oh.
Not posthumous, but posthumous points.
You know what? I'm giving you 2 points for that one.
Hey, thank you.
That's a hell of a way to kick off the show, man.
I can actually be creative every once in a while, but don't count on it happening often.
Yep.
Before you buzzed me and we brought you in, we were just making a reference to, for those listening on the live version and the replay side over here, you heard the locked in break by a person that I consider to be one of the all-time greats who just recently left us. And I'm referring to the iconic, no, not those iconics, but the iconic Mr. Wrestling 2. And if you ever had any interaction with him in or out of the industry, you always knew to never call him Mr. Wrestling number 2. It was always Wrestling 2. I've actually seen him, you know better than that. Don't call me number. Just call me 2. And I wasn't always a big fan of the word deuce either. Twoski was cool.
I'm having flashbacks of a Scrubs episode where there's an autistic patient named JD, and it was JD number 1, number 2, number 1, number 2. Like for 20 minutes of that episode drove me nuts. But
most everything they did on Scrubs drove me crazy.
Yeah.
Cute show, but still every once in a while it just got a little bit too far out there.
Yeah.
With the passing of Wrestling 2, now we're all, I'm sure, for the longtime fans are definitely going to know the man in the $1 Million Knee Lift. One of the most relatable characters throughout the 90% of the time that he worked babyface and 10% of the time that he actually worked heel. And even when he was heel, he was still likable. I'm sorry. I hated to tell him that, but it was the truth. He's like, no, I tried to make sure everybody hated me. It's like, no, it didn't work, because those of us who were fans of yours from the get-go just realized it's like that just added a whole new dimension to your character. He's like, okay, I'll take that. And I had the privilege of interviewing him a couple of years ago on a Tuesday night edition before the Wrestling 2 Classic over in Georgia. I was making a reference to that. And just an absolute, for me, like dream moment. The only thing that could have made it better is if we were actually in the same room at the same table with, round table effect with microphones. And I'm just eternally grateful for those opportunities. And as someone who followed championship wrestling from Georgia and Georgia Championship Wrestling through the WTCG and WTBS eras, to get a chance to watch him and hear the way he just commanded, not demanded, but commanded respect on a microphone and commanded attention on the microphone. Legendary feuds for that era and or in any era. And, it's kind of like, I hate to use the old revival bit. No flips, just, but by the same token, he never had to. The man always worked with people that could help, that could actually work together to tell a great story in the ring. He was a master storyteller, a great in-ring talent, phenomenal teacher. And whether it be in tag teams with his original partner, Tim Woods, Mr. Wrestling, or whether it be through different alliances he held throughout different territories, including Mid-South, it's one of those situations where I don't want to sound like I'm overselling it, and I have a bad penchant for doing that. But It's just, yeah, this is one of the individuals that's like actually helped me genuinely fall in love with this industry and the sport of pro wrestling. I mean, whether it be people like him, the early days of Piper, Tommy Rich, Buzz Sawyer, the Super Destroyer superstar, Bob Armstrong, Blackjack Mulligan, all the different characters that came through the great state of Georgia through that cable outlet. And then, of course, I wish that he would have come into Southeastern every once in a while. Once in a while he would, but not very often. He would make the territory tour mid-Atlantic and down south, but never really ventured that many places outside of the Southeastern U.S., and I respect that. Make them come to you. Make them want to come to you. But, like I say, I know this is really weird hearing me say it like all this, but like I say, for me, it's like I'm officially done with 2020 because I've lost a lot of people this year that I considered to be not just heroes or professional role models, but people whose career I followed. Another case point scenario would be the legendary Bonnie Pointer, the leader of the Pointer Sisters and also a great solo artist in her own right. I mean, in the course of a few short days, we lose, in my world, 2 genuine legends. And I'm done with 2020. I'm just going to go hide in a meat locker and let myself slip off into a cryogenic coma for the next 6 months. But my heart, my thoughts, my prayers go out to the family of both Mr. Walker Wrestling 2 and Miss Pointer and her family and inner circle of friends. 2 huge losses in the world of sports and entertainment over the last so many days. I'm going to shut up. Shane?
Well, I may get long-winded on this one, Eddie. So, Mr. Wrestling number 2, Johnny Walker, passing away at the age of 85. He was the man in the state of Georgia.
Oh, God, yeah.
A lot of places, but in Georgia, back when regional titles meant something, he was a 10-time Georgia heavyweight champion, a 5-time Georgia tag team champion.
Yep.
Dare I say, probably one of the top 5 most over baby faces in professional wrestling in the history of the United States. I know a lot of people are synonymous with their regions, Jerry Lawler with Memphis, Dusty Rhodes down in Florida, but Mr. Wrestling number 2 in the state of Georgia. My grandmother, who passed away in November of 2018, that was her favorite wrestler. She would be a regular at the City Auditorium in Atlanta and at the VFW Fairgrounds in Carrollton every week to see 2, front row, or to try to get as close as you possibly could. Even though I came along during the twilight of his career, he was actually the main event of the very first wrestling show I ever attended. Believe it or not, in June of 1984, at the VFW Fairgrounds, Georgia Championship Wrestling, the main event was the Assassins 1 and 2 versus Tommy Rich and Mr. Wrestling number 2. And I can still remember the passion and the electricity in that building when 2 came out. The chants of 2, as you spoke of, Eddie. You didn't say Wrestling 2. It was just 2.
Yeah.
But, everything about this guy, I mentioned one of the most popular baby faces probably of all time, his commitment to kayfabe never took off the mask. Even made a fan of President Jimmy Carter, who was from the Peach State. His mother, Lillian, would drive to those matches in Columbus and Augusta. Maybe if you don't know, some of our listeners, the famous story, Lillian wanted to meet him. She went to a show for Fred Ward and got to meet him and stay backstage. And 2 was like, she never tried to talk about opening up the business. We just talked about things other than wrestling. 2 was invited to the White House, would not take off the mask, made Jimmy Carter come out on the steps at Pennsylvania Avenue and take the picture with him with the mask. And I think the mask is synonymous for me because certainly not a lot now, but maybe not in wrestling history, masked men usually were villains. Mr. Wrestling number 2 is one of those rare breeds of people who got over under a hood to a great degree. And it's funny, he had a career as Rubberman Johnny Walker, as the Grappler, and actually retired in the mid-1960s before coming back in 1971 under this persona. So I encourage any professional wrestlers, if a gimmick's not working and you think it's over, I point to the late, great Johnny Walker as an example of it's never too late because he got over huge with a third adaptation, a different gimmick. But just a couple of personal stories. I know I shared one about my grandmother, but In 2010, the first Mid-Atlantic Fan Fest I ever attended in Charlotte, North Carolina, put on by Greg Price. He was one of the inductees into the Mid-Atlantic Legends Hall of Heroes in 2010. And, of course, at that banquet was, a lot of wrestling luminaries and whatnot. He took the mask off at the podium. And to see people like Bill Apter and Stu Sachs and other just taking pictures galore, you'd have thought Babe Ruth had hit a moonshot because he never had revealed the hood like that. And even in 2015, I got to take my father to the Fan Fest in Charlotte. I know I shared this story with Eddie, but we were a vendor that year. Vendors, the doors open at 10 a.m. in the morning, 9 a.m. vendors are allowed to mingle. And I saw, too, in his traditional, as far as what I say traditional, what he wore the last 15 years I ever saw him, a Hawaiian shirt with black dress pants. And I said, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind coming over here and meeting my father? He's watched you since 1970. And brought him over. Of course, he didn't have the mask on. And I told my dad, I said, "You know who this is?" He said, "No, sir, I don't." Mr. Wrestling number 2 looked at him and he said, "I'm coming to Carrollton, the VFW Fairgrounds, and I'm putting my hands on you, Ole Anderson." And to see my father light up like a 12-year-old boy, amazed to see Mr. Wrestling number 2 without the mask. And he said, "I never saw it." He said, "You never let anybody see it. We'd see you driving in the car down Bankhead Highway to get back to I-20. You never took it off." And he was amazed. And then, amazingly, one of the workers for the Fan Fest came by and said, "Doors open in 2 minutes." Stu throws on the hood, goes and sits at his table. None of the fans still saw under the mat. But, I mean, I'm a fan, and I'm very fortunate, I feel, to have been in that position twice to see him just be Johnny Walker and rub elbows. But I still thought it was amazing that even when those doors opened, the hood came back on because I think he knew you still appreciated that mystery and that mystique of Mr. Wrestling number 2. And, that tribute they did for him in the state of Georgia, amazing. I know I've went way long, but I just want to get that over. Don't give up if you're a pro wrestler. You can always change, and maybe something will click. And, I mean, for a masked man to be that popular, and I think arguably, one of the most top 5 popular baby faces in the United States. I mean, people came out in droves to see him. And as Eddie spoke of as a heel, I think that was in Continental against Bob Armstrong.
Mid-South.
A hated, version Mid-South of Mr. Wrestling number 2. I remember the turn on Magnum TA that he also did. But just a very kind gentleman, my goodness, and always gracious with his time when you were around him. But I want to make mention of this, too. I believe it was around 2006. Steve Corino is Mr. Wrestling number 3.
Right.
Stu came out of retirement at the age of 73, and they won those Heritage Tag Team titles over in Hawaii. So that was pretty amazing when you think about longevity, even though he had been fully retired for a good while. But I think a lot of people don't remember he actually spent a couple of years in the World Wrestling Federation, I believe from about 84, 86, 85, 87, but just as enhancement talent. And I mean, but other than that, he stayed in Hawaii over the last 15 years. But, man, in the South and especially in the state of Georgia, his loss is felt. And I guess it's very personal to me because having seen Mr. Wrestling number 2, that was my first live wrestling moment. And I was hooked. And, I mean, I think about that now being a competitor in the squared circle as well as working behind the scenes. I have him to thank in some small fashion for, instilling a little bit of that passion in me as an individual.
Ted Guinness, come on board.
Well, before I go in a direction that people might consider disrespectful, please understand that no disrespect intended. But up until I saw the posting on Facebook and social media, my initial thought when I saw the mask was, "Oh God, please don't let it be Jody Hamilton," because I have nothing but mad love for Jody Hamilton, and I haven't had the pleasure of talking to him since I moved from Georgia. But that scared the crap out of me, first and foremost. Second, the only Johnny Walker that I was ever familiar with was either black, red, blue, green, or gold. I do highly recommend the Johnny Walker green. It is a very smooth 18-year-old aged. The ha-ha side, I mean, I think this may be a weird direction for me to go. And if I get completely off the rails, I apologize, but what the hell else is new? When I got into the business, I didn't get in the business the traditional way. I went to Deep South Wrestling when they were first starting, before they went into the TV tapings, and was there for the first 4 weeks before I asked the right person the right question at the right time. Was invited backstage to talk to Jody Hamilton. I had no qualifications whatsoever. The only experience that I had had in the business up to that point was when I tried to train back in 1994 with All Pro Wrestling out of Hayward, California. Roland Alexander, rest in peace, Roland. But Roland was a frickin' used car salesman. Dude was dirty as hell. So while he's dead, I mean, I don't respect him, or I didn't respect him, but I'm not going to speak ill of the dead. So I came into the business a lot different, but it was the Jody Hamilton, Bill DeMott, Dave Taylor, William Regal, Ron Simmons influence. Just being around those guys for a couple of weeks, you know, when you're just an average Joe walking off the street and given an opportunity to work for your first job in professional wrestling, to be a WWE developmental territory and to have that exposure. For the first couple of weeks, your jaw's going to drop every time you walk into that locker room, and you're going to look around with a sense of awe. But that's the mindset that you have to have is, you know, respect the people that have been there before you, listen, learn, before you open your mouth. Unfortunately, I didn't learn that last part of it, and I opened my mouth way too damn soon. And yeah, we'll not get into that. But so you guys talk about, you know, a lot of the great Georgia wrestling history, and granted the fact that I grew up in California in the mid 80s, my dad was too damn cheap to pay for cable, and even though my dad's dead, I don't feel bad saying that because everybody knows my dad was too damn cheap to pay for cable. He got caught twice stealing cable.
Yay!
Yeah, that was awesome. Oh, I got a great story about stealing cable as an aside. But I didn't get the exposure of a lot of the territorial stuff. My first exposure to professional wrestling was Saturday night's main event when Hogan went to the ring to save Macho Man Randy Savage from a beatdown from the Hart Foundation and the Honky Tonk Man. That was, and I think that was probably to my detriment as a wrestling fan and as a future performer in this business. My only exposure was to what Vince was putting out on TV, and I didn't get to watch the territorial stuff. I didn't even get to watch the NWA at the time before it became WCW. So my knowledge base about professional wrestling, hell, I didn't even know there were wrestling schools until not like late 90s when the Monday Night War started. I was like, or early 94 when I found one going to San Jose Arena to watch Raw and saw APW handing out training flyers. You know, anytime that we're dealing with a death in the professional wrestling business, there's always a lot of respect that is given toward the deceased, whether they deserve it or not, because again, you know, it's you don't speak ill of people that have passed on. But when you talk about, you know, these legends and the way that you speak about Mr. Wrestling 2, Johnny Walker, and the experiences that he had on you as a young man and getting into the business yourself and things of those natures, what that does for me is that makes me feel like I missed out on so much because of where I grew up. I didn't have the opportunity to travel around and see these smaller shows. There was no such thing as independent wrestling in California that I knew of up until 94. And if there had been, I would have been all over that in a heartbeat because I fell in love with wrestling. So from my perspective, Shane, I envy you, Eddie. I envy you guys because you grew up in basically one of the biggest wrestling hotbeds in the United States, in the southern United States. So you had those experiences, and the only thing that I can take away from, and the only thing that I can offer, is just living vicariously through those stories, and going back to what I originally said when you're breaking into the business, keeping your mouth shut and absorbing as much as you can before you open your mouth. And I opened my mouth, stuck my foot in it on a long, pointless diatribe, but at the same time, it goes to prove my point, because I didn't have anything to say up until Shane finished. I still don't have anything to say, except I wish I could have experienced what you had, because it would have made my experience in the business a whole lot richer than it was already.
Well, there are, in every area, back in the territory runs especially, because of the fact you had a core group, you had the trusted group, and you had a traveling set that would come through every once in a while depending on storylines. I mean, and curtain be damned for a minute. In the southeastern U.S., you had the core group, including the Armstrongs, the Rat Patrol, the Midnight Express, the Fuller family, the Welch family, Jerry Stubbs, who went on to become Mr. Olympia. Then, of course, he teamed up with a person who we know very well. Before he was who he was Super Olympia, and then went on to become Arn Anderson. In the southeastern U.S., the Southeastern Territory, rich tradition of junior heavyweights, a rich tradition of tag team wrestling. And I say that to move over one state to the east, to the great state of the peach state of Georgia. Mm-hmm. And sorry, just caught myself on that one. You had so many stars come down the pike on WTCG, as well as when it moved into the TBS era. Gordon Solie, masterful storyteller. I was glad when we got him over here in Continental after everything fell off over in Georgia, and Crockett made the change. It's like, to be able to take that individual that you saw on television for such a while, Gordon Solie, the only person that I know that could call a match, hit a specific move, give you a backstory, and say hello to Ms. McGillicuddy and hope her cat's doing well, all in the course of 10 seconds. So for everybody who wants to do commentary, I say go back and listen to Gordon Solie. I respect Jim Ross, but Solie still was the voice of an era. Just like Case Point Scenario, Wrestling 2 was one of the faces of an era in Georgia. I mean, the popularity, it's like all the girls went bat nuts crazy over Tommy Wildfire Rich. Tommy is a great guy. I love him to death. And if you ask Tommy right now, Tommy would actually sit back and say that Wrestling 2 was one of the reasons why he pushed as hard as he did, because even though everybody cheered him the way they did, is why he pushed as hard as he did. There was always that much more admiration for 2. And anybody worth their salt in this industry, and I will use the word admiration as a synonym for respect. Everybody who works in this industry, if you care about this business, you want to find a way to earn that respect from the fans, that admiration from the fans. Face or heel doesn't matter. Tweener doesn't matter. Ride the fence doesn't matter. So go back and see if you can find some of that classic footage, and also Promo Class 101 from Wrestling 2. You will hear me talk about Dusty being able to put one every 18. I give that same credence in the vocal ability behind a microphone, with a microphone, cutting that promo to Wrestling 2. And he knew when to scream and shout, and other times to where he would just go eyes to the camera and go, "You will never forget it. You'll never see it coming, or you'll never forget what's going to happen Sunday night at the Omni." And just, I'm going to stop there because, me, I get onto a topic like this, especially with somebody I respect, one of the legends, one of the greats. I'll go on for a week. Easily.
Well, I wanted to make mention. No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to I want to say I think it's sweet that he and his late wife, Olivia, are rejoined together now. For those of you who don't know, Olivia was a seamstress and made robes for Dusty Rhodes, Lex Luger, Tully Blanchard, Paul Orndorff, the Killer Bees, and most famously, Ric Flair. Some of those robes she made for Flair went for as much as $8,000. And there's actually one we remember a lot of Flair robes, but one she made had 7,200 rhinestones, all made by hand. And I just think back, I know several friends that make gear and robes in the industry, and how quick of a turnaround it is now with technology. But for Olivia to be doing that stuff in the 70s and 80s as a one-man band, so to speak, she made a lot of our favorites of our childhood look good.
Yeah, that light bulb was so bright, Ted could have seen it in Idaho, much less North Dakota, when it went off over my head last night. Long story, tell you in last call. By the way, I want to say thank you to the people who run the NASCAR social media, especially the Instagram account. Last night, NASCAR, Martinsville. NASCAR fans, you win in Martinsville, you get that beautiful grandfather clock. Whoever handled the Instagram account captioning showed the picture or showed the image of Martin Truex Jr. standing beside the grandfather clock that the winner receives. The person who runs the NASCAR Instagram account captioned it by saying, "Congratulations to Martinsville winner, Martin Truex Jr., with the only TikTok he'll ever be on." Social media joke. Martin Truex Jr. will not get on TikTok. That's the point in the punchline. I screwed up the punchline. Guess what? My fault. But NASCAR going fist and fury over the last few weeks since making the original return. Caught them this past Sunday. I missed last night's race. I was working late. But I will simply sit back and say, something? Slowly but surely, our sports world is coming back to us. Now, I'm going to throw this one out there. I have not listened over the last 48 hours to find out what is going on in the realm of baseball. I know the NHL is inching closer and closer. Hats off to them. I know the NBA is continuing to inch by inch. But I have not heard anything about what's been going on with Major League Baseball and their contract proposals. Gentlemen, can either of y'all provide a reasonable update as to what's happening, and if I should even try to be optimistic that baseball is going to do something this year?
Well, so I've been following this really close because, let's face it, if there is a legal drug that I am addicted to, it would be baseball. It's my drug of choice. It's my religion. It's my life. So I've been following this pretty closely. First and foremost, Rob Manfred, I have no respect for the guy, especially what he said after the whole, piece of metal thing with the trophy. Manfred said that baseball is coming back 100%. Whether they're going to do a 50-game season or whether the MLBPA and Major League Baseball ownership can figure out an arrangement. The last information that I've seen that has come out over the last couple of days, June 8th, Major League Baseball proposed a 76-game season with a 75% prorated salary, but only if playoffs are held. And of course, the Players Union rejected that, and they came back the next day and are expected to counter with a 89-game regular season, full prorated salaries, expanded 16-team playoffs for 2021, and opt-out players with compensation and service time if they are at risk or reside with someone at high risk related to COVID. If they do not meet that qualification and they decide to opt out, they would not get compensation. And the one thing that really has, you get it's millionaires versus billionaires, which is an absolutely logical and an absolutely correct argument. But it seems like at this point it's the millionaires that have the better footing as opposed to the billionaires, the owners of the team. Whereas, the owners keep coming back with these shortened schedules, 76 games, 60-something games, and the players' union are coming back, look, we want to play 126. We'll play into November. Okay, that's not going to work. All right, well, let's play 100 games. Let's play 89 games. So to their credit, they're trying to get more games, and selfishly on their part, yeah, they're doing it mostly so that they can get their salaries, but at the same time, if you're a layperson or a baseball fan that's looking at it, you're saying, hey, at least the players' unions are trying to get us more games. Because as a baseball fan, that's all we really want, is more baseball, more games. And I reject anyone who says, oh, baseball's boring. Baseball's not boring. It is a living, breathing game of chess. And if you think baseball's boring, then you're one of the instant gratification society type people that want everything now. You're better off going to watch the NHL, the NBA. I wouldn't even say watch the NFL, because the NFL is just like baseball. It's a little bit faster paced, but at the same time, it's also a human chess game. That's what I want to see. I want to see more games. And really the difference it comes down to, from what I'm seeing, is full prorated salaries versus 75%. I could see them meeting somewhere in the middle at around 80 to 85% prorated salaries, probably an 89 to 95 game season, regular season ending October 31st, and the entire month of November would be the playoffs. Now that's going to be the risky thing, especially if they expand to more than the 8 teams that they have in the playoffs now. The division winners and then the two wild card play-in teams. If you go into a 14 game or a 14, 10, whatever expanded playoffs through the month of November, you're putting your players at a lot of risk, especially for inclement weather. My God, can you imagine if the freaking New York Yankees went to the World Series on November 21st and November 22nd, there's a 94-inch snowstorm that just wipes out all of Manhattan in Yankee Stadium? Personally, I would like that, because F the Yankees, but to my point, you have to find a balance. And the last thing that I want to see as a baseball fan is every game in the playoffs being played at the Tropicana Dome in Tampa Bay, because it's the only dome stadium left, with the exception of the Sky Dome in Toronto, or the Rogers Center, or whatever the hell you want to call it nowadays. It'll always be the Sky Dome. That's where the Ultimate Warrior beat Hulk Hogan, brother. But there's a lot of risks in playing in November, but if they can get that done in a safe, quick, and satisfying manner, no matter what happened with 2020 and all the ridiculousness that has happened since the turn of the calendar year, it would give not necessarily hope to the general public, but I think it would give them one step closer to a sense of normalcy. Being able to turn on a game. Granted, there may not be anybody in the stands, or if they do, it's going to be social distance, limited seating. But man, I mean, there's opportunities definitely there, but there's a lot of risks involved, and I haven't heard any of those addressed yet. So I'm definitely paying attention to this, the back and forth between the owners and the players' union. If the owners end up forcing a 50-game season where without enhanced playoffs, the labor union for Major League Baseball is going to turn the industry on its ear. We may have another lockout for 2021, and as Eddie has mentioned multiple times over the last couple of weeks, talking about baseball, if it gets to that point, baseball will die. So, and I honestly think that the owners, the Players Association, the Umpires Association, Timmy down the street wearing his Yankees gear while getting pies thrown at him by his Mets friends. Man, dude, I mean, there's opportunity, but to use a Scrub reference, since we've already used Scrubs once tonight, baseball is in the ICU, and they're at the 11th hour. And unless they can get a miracle transplant and a brain transfusion, blood transfusion, whatever you want, baseball will flatline. It cannot survive this, especially with the argument about wage gaps, and you have people that are working 60 hours a week so they could take their family afford to see a baseball game that's going to cost them $500 for a weekend.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good that's being mentioned with all these reports that are coming out, but there's a lot of things that aren't being addressed that I think that need to be addressed, because you can't put the cart before the horse. You have to look at the whole picture. And all we're hearing about, and I don't know if maybe they have addressed this, ESPN, Sports Illustrated, CNNSI, none of those outlets are reporting on any of those things. So it could be being discussed. We don't know about it yet, but those are the concerns that are on my mind coming up to the basically the end of the era of Major League Baseball.
Shane, any thoughts?
Well, I thought it was interesting this afternoon that I found out that Commissioner Rob Manfred actually has the authoritative order to start the season when he wishes, as long as he prorates salary. So he does have that power to do so, but I think he would rather have an agreement between the Players Association and the owners rather than forcing play. I agree with Ted's sentiment. Even if the players are right, they're not going to win in the court of public perception with fans. And whether that's right or wrong because of 1994, I don't think fans want to hear from players about why they're not going to play. And that's sad, because they may have some actually valid points, because there is still a pandemic. The reason they're not playing right now, the reason we're not having games at Camden Yards or Wrigley Field or anywhere else across the country is because of this pandemic. And so they, are worried about how long they're going to be leaving their wives and kids for. At this point, I would rather see baseball just scrap it amicably and say we'll come back during 2021 with the baseball that you know and love and try to make it a positive PR statement, rather than if there's going to be some big showdown at Sundown Brown, standoff where it's like we can't come together and it's bad PR. That would be a good resolution for me if they just said, look, we'd rather not have baseball being played while you're out Christmas shopping or enjoying Thanksgiving dinner. So we're going to come back in 2021.
Yeah, while you're doing Thanksgiving, that's normally when the Detroit Lions find a way to lose, and two other NFL games just really bore me to tears.
Well, the advantageous I was going to say is that basketball and hockey are almost ready for their postseason. It's the reason they can come back. With baseball trying to get some semblance of a regular season, then a playoffs, I think, is a much more uphill climb.
Well, with the return this weekend, as a matter of fact, Shane reminded me that it was actually starting today with the Charles Schwab Challenge in Fort Worth, Texas. $7.5 million total purse. Going June 11 through 14. So that means NBC's happy right now because they have fresh content for the Golf Channel. As well as the Network Bird and NBCSN. But the only thing, and this is just me shooting from the hip on this, guys, I feel to a degree horrible for NBCSN, CBSN, or CBS Sports Network, sports talk radio, because up until, and this is the part that I get tickled at, because y'all know that one of my favorite shows to listen to is Dan Le Batard, based out of course, South Beach, Miami. Mike Ryan, the executive producer for the show, is a big wrestling fan. And of course, yes, I'm making a reference to the same Dan Le Batard who challenged Dana White to a fight for charity, which I would gladly pay folding money to see that fight, to see that event happen. I think Dana and Dan would make that entertaining as hell. I think I'd rather see Stugotz and Jorge Masvidal go through a real training session. Stu got strong in that one. Yes, like I said, I'm a fan of the show. I love that one. But all of these shows, whereas getting back to the original point, Mike Ryan, being a wrestling fan, can only talk so much wrestling on an ESPN-based show unless they have an interview to back it up. And for some reason, I think it's because of they haven't started bringing back WWE stars to do interviews, even though Fox Sports 1 and sometimes ESPN will show WWE classic events. Content is content, good or bad, said no one ever. But, a lot of these sports talk shows have just been winging it, and with what I like to call the 2 out of 3 double out of Triple H. And for me, the Triple H of radio, or when it comes to sports talk, is hyperbole, hypothesis, and when the situation prevails, hype. And all we've had to work with outside of pro wrestling and mixed martial arts, since I'm 250 this past weekend, Amanda Nunes, baddest person on the planet. Awesome. Good fight. She cruised in the last couple of rounds, but Spencer gave a great account for herself, by the way. Great main event. But the audience will only persevere so much pro wrestling talk. Oh, it's wrestling. What are you talking about? And then same thing with UFC. Even though a lot of the UFC stars have learned from pro wrestling as far as being able to try to talk 1 every 18 or the pay-per-view buys or the E-Network app, whatever, I don't know. So now that we're starting to get more content, but once again, you've got the stalls in place from Major League Baseball, the inching along by the NHL, golf giving new content. Thank God. I mean, I'm not a huge golf fan, but hey, I'll take it.
It's a crazy ass day when you hear a grown man on a radio show actually say, "God, we have live golf," and get excited about it. You know what? I would normally take points away from that, but because I get where you're coming from, you get 3 points for that one.
Dude, I'll go you one better. I'm hyped up because of the Korean baseball organization. I get to watch live baseball.
Oh, yep. Damn, bastard, you just got 4 points. And the only person I can get mad at is me, because I'm the one that gives out points.
I mean, when you have a chance to, it's like if you have to wake up early in the morning, regardless of your time zone, feel bad for you on the West Coast.
Hey, I'm not too far from there.
No, you're mountain. You're 1 hour off.
I'm literally a mountain away, an hour away from the Pacific time zone too.
Yeah, the Korean baseball organization. I've been having fun watching them. It's like live baseball. Yes, beautiful thing. I mean, the only thing missing right now is kind of like roller derby or something. I mean, hell, if we can find a way to get roller derby going again, I'll be happy.
I've been tempted to start videotaping my cats fighting in my living room and either A, doing live play-by-play over it, or B, splicing in Jim Ross calls. That's how bored I am. That's how much I need baseball. I need content. I need sports. I need something other than this sterilized, bastardized version of professional wrestling that we've been given, with no fans or the NXT kids in the crowd trying to hype it up. And, don't get me wrong, I enjoy having at least some crowd reaction, but if you listen to it comparative to, say, even an independent show, the cheering and all the hoopla that they're getting on the reactions, it sounds fake. It sounds forced. I would be happier at this point in my life if Vince McMahon said F it and started piping in crowd noise and sweetening the crowd like he used to do when the numbers were down during the Monday Night Wars.
Now, let me throw this one at both of y'all. The relative difference, and let's just for giggles normally I would put a fecal matter reference in front of the word giggles and use a conjunction and in the middle of that. But just for giggles, let's compare Monday Night Raw and the NXT group that is in the standing there, social distancing, whatever. And here's the part that tickles the hell out of me more than anything else. But I'm going to get to the meat of the conversation in a second. They're all wearing main roster T-shirts. Oh, wow. How freaking stupid. Okay, I understand you want to plant the subliminal bug. Ooh, I can buy that T-shirt. But to constantly do it segment after segment, hour after hour, week after week, we get it. Shop or WWEshop.com or shop WWE. Whatever the hell it is. We know we can go buy a damn T-shirt for Becky Lynch while she's out on maternity leave. We know we can go buy Fight Owens Fight T-shirt, which is pretty damn cool. Or whoever else you want to buy a T-shirt for. We don't need the NXT crew wearing main roster T-shirts. Once again, Vince ramming something down our throat, trying to play it to the advantage. Why not just have them there? And and here's the meat of it. I want you to listen. Don't just acknowledge the fact that WWE's ringside area is now a hockey rink.
Which I like.
I do like that.
I am waiting, and this is where I've been thinking about this ever since I saw it. This whole pointless Street Profits Viking Raiders thing that's going on. I cannot wait for Ivar to body check Montez Ford through the plexiglass, hockey style.
It's going to happen. But I want the next time you watch Raw versus the next time you watch AEW Dynamite, truth from my perspective, the way that everybody gets into it at ringside on AEW Dynamite and on Dark is more organic.
Mm-hmm.
It's more real. It's more, let's cut up and have some fun with this.
Mm-hmm.
We can be, if we're heels, we can stay in character. The kid kissing his ring. I know, MJF, one of my favorites, period, right now.
I gotta say, I popped for Sammy Guevara singing along with Judas.
Yeah, but he was a little bit off.
I don't care. I still popped for that like a madman.
No, timing-wise, he was a little bit off. If he'd have just been off-key, I'd have been fine with that, hell. But listen to the crowd in Raw. You can tell it's Vince McMahon telling them how to cheer. I want you to go out there and do this and this and this and make sure to do this, this, and this. Whereas over on AEW, it's a damn party.
Here's what I would do. If I were, if I had any ounce of stroke or anything, if I was WWE, Vince or Triple H or whatever, what I would be doing is I would be sending out feelers and invitations to any independent professional wrestler in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, within driving distance, invite them to come down to attend a taping of Raw, SmackDown, NXT behind the plexiglass and, give real, actual reactions, because who else is going to know the business better than independent wrestlers? And then after the tapings, the next day, you say, we appreciate you coming in. We're going to give you a seminar, run you through some drills and see what you have in the ring. Not only are you opening up avenues of opportunity for independent wrestlers who may not get a sniff, you're getting qualified, credible quote-unquote fans in attendance for these shows, and you're giving them an opportunity to do what you always want wrestlers to do, and that's learn the WWE way. There are opportunities there, but because Vince is so close-minded in his own little private plastic bubble that he lives in, that idea would never get the light of day.
Shane, how many points do we give him for that? Do we give him 2 or 3, actually?
1.5.
I can't do half points.
2 would be.
I mean, Shane, you've watched the different shows. You get what I'm talking about, right? About AEW sounding more like a party and sounding more organic in the way that everybody in the ringside area is coming across, versus WWE sounding like it's just like it would the next best thing to canned crowd noise coming in, right?
I mean, there's no comparison. AEW is a lively, electric atmosphere. WWE is running through the motions.
Could it be that AEW is out entertaining World Wrestling Entertainment?
Well, if I can hijack this question with something I called you about last night.
Go ahead.
Let me just say that we are highly critical. We observe, we analyze on this show, but there is something that excited me to the core as a pro wrestling fan last night, and that was the debut in AEW in-ring of FTR to kick off the show against Butcher and Blade. Now, in the annals of history, it'll show that it was a 12-minute TV match on AEW Dynamite. To me, it was so refreshing. It was a tag team style smash mouth, hard hitting, headlock takeovers, counters, reversals, using the tag rope to tag your partner, building to big false finishes and spots, with a conclusive ending that is the light you see all the time. And speaking of electricity, you could hear it in Chris Jericho's voice. Not once, not twice, not three, 4 times he put over the match, the style. He said, I hope this becomes more prevalent in AEW. He even made the joke to Jim Ross, this has got to be like a wet dream for you.
Yeah.
JR laughed and said, it's hella refreshing. Shivani was in on it. This is my thing, and this is my question to both of you. Do you think FTR, which I love now because of blocks and trademarks and other teams using whatever names, it's going to stand for follow the rules, beautifully done. Do you think if FTR is the only team that works like this or is marketed and presented like this, do they become even bigger stars? Or if the rest of the tag team division, not all of them, but some, kind of, sort of, follow suit, does FTR kind of lose a little bit of its luster if that's the way the tag team division becomes? Because I could see the argument either way. I thought Butcher and Blade, that was one of my favorite. I think it's probably my favorite match they've had in the company, because they've had to be there, basically the base for everyone doing their gymnastics routine around them. They had beautiful chemistry with FTR. I would like to see that match again with a longer time limit. So I don't know if that's my question to you guys. Do you think if FTR is a standout, are they a standout of the division? Or if other teams over the course of the next several months follow suit, would they be championed as well? They brought tag team wrestling back, or would other teams outshine?
Ted, you go
first. Same
stuff. I don't think there's a chance that they get outshined. I think that FTR is in my opinion right now, is the benchmark of tag team wrestling. I mean, any team that can go to London and make Enzo and Big Cass look like $1 million stars, Jesus Christ, I'm signing them up if I start my own promotion. My God, they're my first draft pick, because not only do they understand it, they can work almost any style. Yeah, they do. They're primarily the no flips, just fists gimmick, which I love as a throwback to the old Four Horsemen Brainbusters day of Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. Nothing but respect for those guys. And I think their presence in AEW is going to validate what they've been saying all along about how they want to elevate tag team wrestlers, because I have never seen a team gel that cohesively. If you go all the way back to the original Dusty Classic in NXT, when when it was Dash and Dawson thrown together, it almost seemed like they were thrown together, and they went so far in that tournament. I believe they have lost to the eventual winner, Samoa Joe and Finn Balor, if I'm not mistaken. I've had a few head injuries. But, you could put them in, their match with American Alpha in NXT, 5.5 stars. Enzo and Cass in London, 4.5. I take off a star because it was Enzo and Cass. These guys are tip-top solid, and everybody knows that the money match is going to be them versus the Bucks, and that is a match that should be pushed off to as long as humanly possible before those guys ever get in the ring and start throwing fists. I think right now FTR has been brought in to really gel with these guys that are struggling a little bit to find their identity and to really find their styles in the tag division. Their tag division's loaded. There's a lot of talent there, but they don't have quite the it factor that, say, an FTR does, or the Young Bucks does, or even Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. So they're there to legitimize the entire division. Their arrival there does legitimize that a lot. The fact that they're working babyface as opposed to pure heel right now definitely gives them a different dynamic, a different look, and it feels really, really fresh. Speaking of fresh, highly disappointed in Dax Hardwood shaving off the porn stash. Disappointed that he lost the porn stash. He looks kind of weird, but you know, hopefully he grows the porn stash back after they win the AEW tag team titles in about a year. But no, I don't think they fizzle away. I think they're in their prime. I think they understand, they get it, and they're willing to work with anybody to help them get it. And if they can do that and elevate their opponents to that next level, it only makes things better for them. So it's a win-win-win all the way around. I didn't get a chance to see the commentary yet from Shivani and Jericho and Jim Ross. I have to go back and just because I only saw bits and pieces of the match. I want to go back. I want to see the match. But, you know, and it goes back to the things that you and I have talked about, Eddie, the entire time that we've been in business together working shows, is that when you have that announcer chemistry, it makes what's in the ring, even if that ring, what's going on in the ring is a 5-star match, that commentary and the ability to elevate everybody within the ring while still getting your own Schlitz in, it again wins all the way around.
Ted, let me ask you this: if they go with the Bucks and FTR at All In August, could we actually dare see it all out? Excuse me, a tag team match main event, a pay-per-view?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree. But I think going to All Out is still too soon. I think this needs to be a 1-year run. It can't be a hot shot. Can't be a hot shot angle. It can't be a short to mid build of 3 to 6 months. It's got to run a course of over a year.
I was actually looking at possibly December.
Still too soon. And the reason I say that is because the one thing that this match would definitely need is a large crowd reaction.
Yeah.
Right. Having it in December, you can't guarantee that. So, you know, right now with everything going on, you know, you have spikes with people going, you know, starting to get out of the house. Corona's starting to spike back up. Everyone's panicking. The Dow drops 1,800 points. Someone's crapping their pants somewhere on a daily basis because something's going bad. You can't plan that too close. So you give it plenty of time to grow organically. You let them battle on Twitter. You let them turn it into a work shoot. And once crowds start coming back in, then you can start teasing the angle in front of the crowd. And that's what's going to draw the money, and that's what's going to draw the interest. If you start trying to force this to December now, and you're only at 30 to 50% arena capacity, I think you blew your wad way too soon. Go get some Viagra, think about it, and try again next time.
Yeah, but by the same token, the pay-per-view buys are going to be through the roof.
Pay-per-view buys, yeah, but, you know, here's the thing. It's not necessarily about pay-per-view buys anymore. It's about the videotape library and what you can do with that. And if you're going to end up selling your library or allowing distribution rights or something along those lines, and you're going to put on a historic moment, you don't want to put on that historic moment with 1,500 people in the crowd when you can do it in front of 7,500 to 10,000 people and get that loud, long, sustained pop, reaction, oohs, ahs, this is awesome, fight forever, any freaking chant that you can think of. It needs that large fan base. So that's why I think it needs to grow organically for a long time. Don't target this year at all.
Okay. The only drawback is, and I'm probably going to draw heat from listeners for saying this, especially with the younger demographic, the attention span is that of a gnat. Not everybody has the attention span for storylines as people 30 and above. So you run the risk that if you push it to a 1-year build, look, Rock Cena got lucky by the same token 2 years in a row. A slow burn can work if properly executed in a manner to where people's attention does not peak too soon. If you get them too hyped too fast, you fizzle. And then when it finally happens, you're going to have a sardonic response going, oh, we finally gonna get it? And because how many times have we seen that on message boards and chat rooms and bulletin boards, all Reddit, all of the, oh, we finally gonna get it? Yeah, we're finally going to get it. And no, they're not just trolling you. Guess what? It's really going to happen. It's not. Go ahead.
Last night we saw Kenny Omega and Adam Page come in the aftermath of the tag match. That might be too soon in some people's minds, but in my opinion, you can't just have FTR hot and be like, well, we're going to have to keep them away from the Bucks and Page and Omega. If they want to go with Omega and Page, the tag team titles versus FTR, there's elements in play to get the Young Bucks involved, either causing a title change, keeping a title change from happening, which furthers that story. I could see them going for the tag team belts before they get the Bucks, and I'm not so sure that their first encounter needs those tag team titles. It just doesn't. It's one of those matches that think of anything Taker did at Mania, all that the streak. The title was never really involved. I think maybe one match, but
one time, yeah,
that match on its own would stand. Let Page and or wherever the titles may be, let that be another program. But I think the first time just needs to be everything we've seen over social media between these two, contrast of styles, what you would think is legitimate heat to prove which style of tag team wrestling is superior.
Okay. Agreed. Let me go ahead and go back to your original question. The Bucks did a good job in their promo saying we've carried tag team wrestling on our backs for 15 years. They also said in their opinion, and once again, this is their opinion through their promo, that they are the best tag team in the world. Debatable. I have a ton of respect for the Bucks. Yes, you're hearing me say that. Because I haven't always been the biggest supporter of the Bucks. It all comes down to personal preference and opinion. There's that word, opinion, based on the scenario in play. I love the factor of how during a conversation or a promo setup, the words spot monkeys was used somewhere a couple of weeks ago. I popped for that huge. It's like, okay, you're trolling the world with that one. I love it. I took the bait too. But as it pertains to FTR, which does mean blank the rest, look on the back. There's a number of ways they can do that, but it does say blank the rest. By the way, speaking of, before I get into that, I popped huge when I saw when they cut to the crowd and you had Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson sitting in the same section, 6 rows apart from each other. I'm going, oh, wow. Why couldn't they have only been 2 to 3 rows and actually compared notes? I think it would have been after the FTR win, if they'd have cut to Tully and Arn and perhaps did a head nod or threw a salute. You know, Arn can do the head nod and Tully can throw a salute or something like that. I think that would have been a huge moment in pro wrestling television. But I knew they probably wouldn't do that on the debut match. Just having Tully and Arn in the audience was a nice touch. That was cool. I think that FTR is going to continue to get even better. The match with them and Butcher and Blade last night was a thing of beauty. I thought it was well done. I could watch that match 3-4 times and not get bored with it. I think that Butcher and Blade were a great fit for FTR. That's not going to happen every week. You might have a combination in Dark Order that actually would be a good fit for FTR. Private Party may have to tone down some of the aerial stuff just a hair, not much, so that you don't have too much of a contrast in styles. Properly executed, a match between FTR and Private Party would be incredible to watch, but you have to be careful with it. When you get to Page and Omega, I think the styles will complement each other. And I'll say the same thing about the Bucks. The Bucks will have to alter a couple of things to make this match work. But FTR has shown that they can work with almost every style tag team out there. And the one match that I'm really looking forward to see exactly whether or not it's going to be feast or famine, boom or bust, FTR versus the Lucha Brothers. That's going to be one that I would pay to see that match at the drop of a hat. I would pay money to see that match.
Oh, FTR, Daniels, Kazarian, also up top near my list.
Can I throw out a wrestling fan's wet dream if when they finally decide to turn FTR heel?
Say that again?
I want to throw out a wrestling fan's wet dream for when they finally decide to turn FTR full heel in AEW.
What's that?
So imagine this. Young Bucks, maybe there's a huge scrum at the end of a show. A bunch of people are fighting in the ring. People get cleared out. And it's the Young Bucks and FTR on one side. Not sure who's the babyface, not sure who the heel is. All of a sudden, here comes Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard entering the ring, getting in a stare down with FTR for a good protracted 2-3 minutes, not saying anything, not gesticulating, just staring at each other, letting that tension build, and have Arn and Tully turn on the Bucks, start beating them down, and have a 4-man beatdown of the Bucks, FTR, and the Four Horsemen. Are you kidding? Would that not be a wet dream for wrestling fans, or am I just blowing smoke?
35 and over, yes. Or 30 and over, yes. 29 and under, I'm not sure. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, I would pop huge for that. That would be a DVR moment for me. I mean, and you wouldn't want the stare to go too incredibly long. I would say 1 minute would be fine, not 2 to 3.
Depends on the crowd reaction. I think if the crowd continues to build and build and build, you just milk it for a little bit longer.
I mean, because if the crowd rides, I mean, if you've got a crowd there and they ride that way, okay, the one that I can give you as a good comparison to was the night that the Shield did the stare down against the Wyatt family.
Yep.
Not a word was said, and just when you thought that crowd could not get any louder, they did.
And then the reaction that they got when they finally met at the Elimination Chamber, the crowd was chanting, "This is awesome," before the match even started, and I had never heard that before.
Right. And this is one of the things that I genuinely dig about Promo Class 101. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes let it breathe. Let the moment breathe. Let the fans carry that roller coaster. Hi, Six Flags. I'll see you next week. And that was subtle, wasn't it?
I will tell you, one of my wild, wet dreams here would be for the Inner Circle to turn babyface after getting beat down by a formed group with Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard as the masterminds, with FTR, Shawn Spears, and MJF as a new faction, turning the Inner Circle babyface with a War Games style match.
Oh my God.
And actually, when you brought up Inner Circle, my God, I cannot believe that I actually forgot to mention the possibility of FTR versus Pride and Powerful. Santana and Ortiz, that would be an awesome matchup.
So, Ted, you like that idea? Because I could so see Jericho as the babyface willingly giving that rub to MJF as the forefront of whatever faction they want to call it.
Sorry, I almost missed your question. I had to go get a towel. That was so good.
I'm gonna take this one step in a similar yet different direction, as we are at 9:36 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, 7:36 on the West Coast, on the Shooters Gallery beyond Ringside Live Thursday night. I'm doing a quick reset. 11th day of June 2020. Fast Eddie Lane, Shane Knowles, Ted Guinness. Did anybody let it sink in that Dynamite last night on TNT actually started with 2 tag team matches, gentlemen?
I have not had the chance to catch Dynamite yet, so I am not qualified to answer that question.
No worries. Shane?
I did.
I mean, you started out with FTR and Butcher and the Blade, and then you had Nyla and Penelope Ford versus Sheeta and Statlander. I thought
Let me just say one more thing about this.
Go ahead.
That was not lost on me. AEW comes on the air. They tell you FTR is about to debut. They tell you a couple of matches that's going to happen tonight. And they also give you the Moxley Cage that's going to happen at Fyter Fest. And then we're getting in the ring at 8:04. You talk about refreshing. I know some things that's coming tonight. I know some things coming up on the next big event. And then we're going to action. That's refreshing from a 15, 20-minute, long, drawn-out promo. Just saying.
I'm going to join you on that one because, with all due respect, and there's a ton of it there, I get sick and tired of WWE programming constantly feeling the need to start out with an extended promo.
Well, we're not a wrestling show. We're a storytelling enterprise. Bull crap.
Tell the story in the damn ring.
I do not want to sit through another 11-minute Triple H-esque type promo to start Raw or SmackDown anymore. I haven't wanted to do that since Triple H was cutting the promos.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and okay, let me ask the question. Before I talk about the women's tag team match, has the Monday Night Messiah jumped the shark, yes or no, Ted?
It jumped the shark 30 seconds after it was created.
Shane?
I never liked the title in the first place.
I think they could have come up with something a little bit better. But by the same token, I do like, okay, Austin Theory may benefit from this faction of the Monday Night Messiah.
In theory. In theory.
In theory. And hopefully...
Point.
And Murphy didn't need it. Murphy was coming off a string of matches against Aleister Black that had everybody going, damn. Thank you, Ron Simmons. Love you, dude. 4-time All-American, Florida State University. Hell yeah. Go Seminoles. I will also say go Canes too, but 2 out of 3 schools in Florida. Not bad. I'll take them both. But lo and behold, Murphy, I think, gives more credibility to Rollins as the Monday Night Messiah because of the role that Murphy's taken as the Messiah, as opposed to the fact of Rollins giving more stature to Murphy being the disciple and Rollins being the Monday Night Messiah. It's, when you come up with a faction with a defined leader, this is why the 4 horsemen are always going to be the benchmark. Because I've seen factions in different areas for decades. Hyatt and Hot Stuff International back in the UWF Mid-South. Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, the ringleader, the man with a microphone. Rick Steiner, great in the ring. Sting, great in the ring. Missy Hyatt, beautiful young lady.
Shane, are you getting pulled over right now?
I'm not.
It's the Thought Police. I brought up Hot Stuff International and the Thought Police are trying to find me.
Yep. But to your point though, Eddie, I mean, I could see that working similarly to the way that Evolution elevated Batista and Randy Orton into main event players, I can actually see where, we've always been crying out for WWE to figure out a way to create new stars. And when you're the leader of the faction, yeah, you're the face of what's going on. You're generally the person who holds the stick the longest. But it's your job as that faction leader, especially if you're a heel, to build up not only the guys that are under you for an eventual face turn, either by yourself or by your disciple, but it not only creates new, fresh content, but it actually gives legitimacy to the characters and the talent and the performer. Whether he can do that with Austin Theory, in theory, no, because he's not ready for the main roster. He should be down in NXT. But it's one of those knee-jerk reaction call-ups that Vince is going to get behind for another couple of months, and then he's going to give up on Theory, and he's going to and then Austin Theory's either going to get released or he's going to get the Apollo Crews treatment for 3 years.
Well, see, here's the thing, and where I was going with the faction and the Four Horsemen being the benchmark. Shane, who had the weakest promos in the Four Horsemen? The original incarnation.
No one.
Cedric.
What was the original incarnation again? It was Ole, Rick, Arn, and Tully, right?
With JJ.
With
yes.
JJ, I'd say JJ Dillon was probably the weakest.
I concur. But as far as the four in-ring talent, none of them.
None of them. Not a single one.
None of them. This is where the Horsemen are still going to be the benchmark.
Yep.
Now, people can bring up DX. How many times did Billy Gunn cut a promo? How many times did X-Pac cut a promo other than, somebody raise some hell? I love you, Sean. much respect, brother. I'd love to do an interview with you sometime just for fun. I mean, we all knew about the Mad Mike skills of Road Dogg. We all know that Hunter during that run had already started to change a little bit in his delivery. And of course, in the original DX, Shawn Michaels, need I say more? And same thing with Inner Circle. Everybody has their positioning. Guevara cuts decent promos. Hager doesn't have to. Pride and Powerful doesn't have to, but they're good when they want to be. And Jericho is the maestro. Now, as far as the Elite, yeah, Cody, good promos when he stays focused and on topic. Lux, same thing. Paige, doesn't have to. Omega, doesn't have to. Matt Hardy, last night confused the hell out of me. If you're going to change characters that fast, you need a quick cut to the Lake of Reincarnation or something. When you just go Sybil and shake your head and, hell, here's somebody else. It's like, no, not even I'd do that. And trust me, I do some weird ish with personalities. But coming back over, okay, I'm going to stop there for a second because I know I just laid out a whole buffet line of stuff that y'all can jump on. Shane, anything that I've just said that you want to jump on either way, pro, con, positive, negative, duh.
No, you went through all the promo people of different factions. I'm good.
Okay. Ted?
I would say if there was one caveat that I could add to that is that back in the day when the Four Horsemen, the original incarnation came out and all four of them could carry the stick, was definitely a different era where they needed everybody to have that exposure to be able to build up stars because they didn't have social media, they didn't have their own streaming services, they didn't have the internet, websites, all these different avenues to where they can make up for where certain areas where they're lacking. They can, start getting into the slickly produced promo packages that WWE is absolutely famous for, and for good reason. Every promo package that has ever been put together and put on WWE has been perfect. The ones that I missed the most would probably be the old Desire ones, where they would take a pop song and do like a minute and a half of these guys putting their body and girls putting their bodies on the line for your entertainment. It definitely a different era. So in that instance, I think they needed everybody to be able to carry the stick and carry the promo in case so one of the members of the Four Horsemen couldn't make a show, was sick, decided they'd run an angle where one of them wasn't booked that night or something. So you were able, like, if Flair, who let's be honest, was the kingpin of the Four Horsemen, both in the ring and on the stick. If they were running an angle where Flair was out injured, you had confidence in handing the mic to a Tully Blanchard or to an Arn Anderson or to an Ole Anderson. As where you get into the newer era with the television production and the slick videos and all the smoke and mirrors, where you have Triple H and Ric Flair cutting the promos for Orton and Batista where they dropped the ball. You asked how many promos did Billy Gunn cut. I think he cut 3 after he botched his lines in all 3 of them. They decided to take the microphone away from him, except with the we got 2 words for it, thing. But X-Pac could cut a promo. Billy could cut a promo. Shawn can cut a promo. Triple H bores the hell out of everybody with his promos, but he can cut a promo.
No, actually, he chainsaws a promo.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Point.
yeah. I was getting to it. Yeah, I think that would be the only caveat, is that you have to really consider it through the lens that it is a different era, and when a talent has a glaring weakness, there are other opportunities to cosmetically cover it up and take focus away from those weaknesses and expound on their strengths. Now, the one thing that I think that modern wrestling is sorely missing, and AEW seems to be bringing it back to a prominence, is a wrestling manager. When the talent can't cut a promo, that's when you have the manager, aka JJ Dillon, which is why he was the weak link of the Four Horsemen. He wasn't needed. But now you have, like, Bobby Lashley is a terrible promo, and thank his sisters for that. Apparently, that promo that he cut when he came back, I love my sisters. Oh my God, was that career suicide right there or what? But you hook him up with a guy like MVP, who is good in the ring, phenomenal on the mic.
Yep.
It's kind of bringing that one aspect, I think, that has been missing, and brings glues it all back together. So AEW is doing a great job with that. WWE seems to be getting back on board, and I have to think that it's a concession that Vince is getting. You have Zelina Vega as a manager. You have MVP as a manager. I forgot who. I don't think there is anyone else that's doing the managerial role anymore. Seth Rollins kind of takes that managerial role as the Monday Night Messiah, the Monday Night Maestro, whatever you want to call him. Player coach, exactly. He's doing his job and building new stars, but he's also speaking for them where they're lacking in those promo skills.
Separate topic shift. And I may come back to the women's tag match in a minute, which actually I thought was an excellent match. Matter of fact, I know, Ted, you said you haven't seen it yet, so Shane, I'm going to throw to you on this one. Pleasant surprise to see Penelope Ford get the win in this match. Yes or no? And your thoughts on the match?
It was, because she and Kip Sabian are, a real-life couple. Now they're being presented as such in AEW. And this hasn't been a whole lot of wins in the Penelope Ford, Kip Sabian camp. So, yeah, that was a nice surprise.
I actually think this is the best that Penelope Ford has looked since she's been on Dynamite, because I have not been a big fan of hers. I guess I should have realized that she might have been the one to get the win last night, considering the fact that she was basically wearing a thong. A one-piece outfit, but it was still a thong in the back. And there's no second. Don't get me started. I'm not going to go there this week. I'll save it for next week. I swear I will. But yeah, realistically speaking, I'm on the record about the match. I thought the match was well done. Chris Statlander is just absolutely sweet to watch in the ring. Sheeta is awesome. Nyla Rose continues to dazzle and impress, and Penelope Ford is getting better. I have not been a big fan of Penelope Ford, especially in the onset, but over the last few weeks, I don't know if somebody just jumper cabled her, but by golly, over the last few weeks, 3 weeks to be exact, she has come a long way in a short amount of time. And I'll say it, I'm impressed. I mean, but okay. I want to throw this one out there, and I apologize for not doing the opening round like I have been doing the last couple of weeks. Of course, I apologize for us not being here last week. It was just chaos with Spectrum because the net was down here at Studio One, and me and Spectrum are not getting along right now. But in a recent interview, AJ Styles made a comment that he personally felt that expectations were too high in the IWC for his match against Shinsuke Nakamura back at Mania a while back. And a lot of people, he felt that the expectations were so high, in particular because of what they did together in Japan. I say that to say this. AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Intercontinental Championship to be filled. A, how high are your expectations for this match? And do you feel that the wrestling public in general, i.e. fan base, i.e. WWC, or IWC, I'm sorry, I screwed that up, will be even higher than your expectations for this match? Shane.
Well, my expectations are tempered because they're not calling it the best wrestling match of all time, as with two other gentlemen that are on this particular card. So I go into it with an open mind. Taking a curveball on this one, as you like to do, Eddie, I appreciated seeing Edge's comments in Sports Illustrated about there's no way to live up to the hyperbole of best wrestling match ever. He said, now Vince is a promoter and he's an old-time promoter. He said, so I get it why he would say that. He said, but I already know that you're not going to be everyone's flavor of the week, and even if Randy and I go out there and absolutely positively kill it, that we'll never live up to the image in some people's minds. Yeah, but what about this match? He said, so I actually have a very clear conscience and heart frame of mind going into that. That was refreshing. Sorry, I know I took a curveball.
No, that's fine. That's what we do.
That's what we do around here. But your thoughts about AJ and Daniel? How high are your expectations, and what do you think the match is going to be?
Should be really, really good. If I'm not mistaken, these two did work against each other in Ring of Honor once, if memory serves. But it should be really good. I have no doubt they'll give them time. Hopefully they'll give them time. And when I say that sometimes, I don't want people to think that I think all matches should be long. But with workers who can tell a good story over the course of time, it's like an old video game. Time extended is definitely not frowned upon.
Do you think the fan base's expectations are going to be higher than yours?
Maybe, because I'm not sure how much of the WWE universe actually saw Bryan and AJ around the 2000, anywhere between, what it was, 2005 through 2008, somewhere in there. I can't remember when that was, but I think it's probably a good deflection. And that's something to bring up, well, that I brought up the curveball. Edge and Randy Orton may have the title of best wrestling match ever. Wouldn't surprise me in the least if AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan stole the show.
Ted, same questions.
Okay, so give them to me in order because, again, I've had head injuries. But before you ask me the first question, I want to go ahead and address this AJ Styles thinking the IWC had way too high expectations because of what they did in Japan. Duh! Obviously, because if you are capable of putting that on, you're more than capable of putting it on again. I think where the mistake is that the IWC forgot Vince McMahon is booking the match, not AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. As far as the Intercontinental title match itself goes, I think it goes 15 to 19 minutes, somewhere in that range. I don't see them giving the Intercontinental title more than 20 minutes. But I put my expectations and what I honestly think that the fans' expectations would be at probably the same level as the first time we saw Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura. Two guys with credibility, history, not history against each other, but credible histories in the business, whose paths either rarely have crossed or have never crossed. So I think it's not going to be so much of an expectation, but an anticipation of seeing something amazing. Think the little kid in The Incredibles when Mr. Incredible picks up his car. He's just looking for something amazing. That's the expectation that I'm taking into the match, and I think that's the expectation that most of the wrestling fans watching that match would have. I don't see them expecting to have a barn burner 30-minute contest. But at the same time, I think they're expecting to see something absolutely amazing and something that we haven't seen before.
Me personally, when I know that the two who are part of a match or that make up a match have the potential to just completely and totally blow it up, torch it, set the night on fire, and just make the fireworks pale in comparison. I hope for that match to occur. But then, as Ted said a minute ago, and as we have all said before, Vince. Okay, I'm sorry, kids, and moms and dads and sisters and brothers, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Vince McMahon could kill a wrestling fan's wet dream so fast it would make your hair spin, if you have to. If not, it'll make your damn head spin, make you grow hair so it can spin too. I've lost track of the number of times where you have the dream match on a card. Mania, Rumble, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, or whatever other B or C list pay-per-view there's been there. And because it is on a Vince McMahon program, it fails to live up to the expectation. I have high hopes for Styles Daniel Bryan. I think that the IWC more likely, and folks, you're more than welcome to chime in on this on Twitter, at Beyond Ringside on Twitter, Facebook.com/Beyond Ringside Live. Like the page, leave a comment. And I'm willing to hazard this one that it's going to be 65-35, higher expectations than I have for the match, 35% lower. So I'm in that weird third section. I know where AJ is in his career. I know where Daniel Bryan is in his career. But I also know that these two, it's either going to be one that makes you go, did they really just do that? Or it's going to be one that makes you go, damn, I want to see that again. But, so I'm looking forward to watching this one, kind of like I'm guardedly optimistic about Backlash. I've said it before. I said it 2 weeks ago. I said it 2 nights ago on Back to Basics. When they put out best wrestling match or greatest wrestling match ever, the first thing that popped in my head is Vince is selling all over again. Because every time he's laid something, every time either he or a minion has laid something out there that he's allegedly said, well, they're just blood and guts. Well, guess what? Half the roster of AEW ran with the phrase blood and guts, including Jericho and Cody. And Moxley. And one of the minions said the word Smash Mouth. Well, what is the word Jericho ran with this week on AEW Dynamite? Smash Mouth. How many times did he say that during the opening tag match? 4? Yup. So you know that word was echoed in the halls of Stanford. Or Stanford. Damn. W. Titan Tower. So, being realistic about it, this greatest wrestling match ever moniker is such a beautiful troll on the IWC And I'm just laughing my ass off. And believe me, with the size of my ass right now, that's a hell of a lot of laughing. Because the simple fact of life, you and I, everybody, guys, y'all have heard it before on Raw, SmackDown. Everybody, over the last 20 years, Vince McMahon would fine in-ring talent because Rock's made a reference to it, Austin's made a reference to it, Cena's made a reference to it, Punk's made a reference to it, Hunter's made a reference to it, that we don't use the W word. We don't say wrestling or wrestler. And now all of a sudden, the curtain's dropped. The marquee is there. Greatest wrestling match ever. This is a complete and total troll by the WWE, and I love every second of it.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I don't think it's a troll. I think this is two things that are happening here. Once, Vince reaching out of desperation because the ratings are plummeting. People are losing interest in his product. And two, I think this is the early onset of senility. And if you saw the video when I said that, this was not me smiling and trying to get a cheap pop. I'm starting to seriously wonder if Vince McMahon's mental facilities are starting to dwindle, or if he's that out of touch with reality outside of his own little bubble, and or both. I would love to be able to believe that this is a troll on the IWC, but I don't think Vince gives a damn about the IWC or what the IWC thinks. I honestly think that Vince is starting to get senile. He's getting desperate because his ratings are dropping. He doesn't want to give up control, and he doesn't know what to do. And at this point, I honestly think he's starting to get to the point where I don't think he knows who to trust anymore.
I think that circle is very small. I genuinely do. Gentlemen, realizing where we are chronologically speaking, I'm going to go ahead and start heading in that direction. But before I do, I know that you've done this online a couple of times, and I know that the door's about to be open for live appearances and then some. So I'm going to put our resident trivia master on the spot and say, Shane, do you have 2 quick ones ready?
Make it 3, because
I do.
You and I are separated by 1 point, Eddie.
Oh, well, I would like to extend the invite to Ted Guinness, Eddie Lane, as well as anyone else that would like to join us for online Zoom trivia. We've had useless trivia, I would say, people who played in the past. We've had people play from Denver, Colorado. We've had people play from Portland, Oregon, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. It's really been a fun time because people that have played useless trivia over the years and have moved due to work or family or anything else now get a chance to come back and play the games that they all knew and loved. So I'd like to extend an invite. If you two want to be on a team, or if you want to gather up your own team, that takes place at 8 o'clock Eastern this Saturday night via Zoom, and it's a really fun concept. But some of the questions I'm going to ask here were from this past weekend's game.
Tell you what, kids, folks, if you're listening, whether you're listening live or listening on replay, here's the way we're going to do it. Shane will ask the question start to finish in its entirety, same thing but different, or same thing but similar, for the first time through. Then quick pause. Then he's going to ask it a second time. No cheating, no Yahoo, no DuckDuckGo, or whatever the hell search engine's the breakfast of the week this week. Just see if you know the answer to it. Now, for Ted and I, since this is a competition, the one after the second reading of the question, the one of us who thinks we knows the answer is going to say our first name, and then we'll give the answer from there. And points.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Shane, before you ask the question, please assign a point value so I can get the scoreboard ready.
Oh, you got it. Sure.
And just so you know,
I
bumped you up 5 points, so you're in the lead right now.
Oh, nice. This is a 2-point question. This comes from our 2-point round this past Saturday. Video game characters.
Oh, yes.
This character is a staple character of every installment of the Super Smash Bros. Franchise, as well as Mario Kart. This character was actually created in 1984 but did not debut until 6 years later because the Super Nintendo was more powerful and did not have the limitations of the NES. This character is a staple character of every installment of Super Smash Bros. As well as the Mario Kart franchises. It was created in 1984 but did not debut until 6 years later because the SNES was far more powerful and did not have the limitations of the original NES.
Guinness, I know you're going to take that one.
I'm on the fence. I'm trying to run through everything that I know about Super Smash Brothers, which is not much, but for my knowledge and history of Super Mario Brothers, I'm going to take a wild guess. And when you say debut, Shane, are you talking about debut in Super Smash Brothers or his debut period?
Debut period in a video game.
Ooh. I don't know.
Sure. I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't have a damn clue because I never played Smash Brothers. I never played Super Smash Brothers, and I wasn't big on Mario Kart. I'm not even going to try to bluff.
Shall I just give the answer and we scratch this one?
Yep, let's do that.
Yeah, we're in.
Debuting in Super Mario World was Mario's new sidekick, Yoshi.
I've heard that name before.
I thought Yoshi had his own kart on NES, Yoshi's Adventure with Kirby.
Was that not a SNES game?
No, I believe that was classic NES. As a matter of fact, I am gonna look that one up while you load the next question. Since that was a wash, we need a backup question for that one.
Okay, how about still sticking with a 2-point question? How about we do? I'm sorry, I'm doing this live, kids, as Eddie likes to say. How about we go with words and phrases?
Okay. Conjunction.
Introduced to the English language in the early 1900s, what 6-letter word that is a walled structure comes from the French, meaning to shelter? Introduced to the English language in the early 1900s, what 6-letter word that is a walled structure comes from the French, meaning to shelter? If you were playing Zoom Trivia, you would have got the Rolling Stones' Gimme Shelter playing while you were thinking of the answer.
Probably.
Yeah,
or Cinderella Shelter, I can't remember.
Off Long Cold Winter, yeah. And when it comes to certain music, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Same album. The only problem is,
I've got it. Ted's throwing out a guess. I'm gonna say bunker.
That is incorrect.
Damn it! That was the only 6-letter word I could think of.
Eddie, I was gonna say housed.
Ooh, also incorrect. Want to take a second stab at it? Bob Barker, take 2, or the answer?
Ted, go for it. You answered first.
I've got nothing left. As much Scrabble as I've been playing, I've got nothing.
6-letter word, meaning walled.
It's a walled structure. It comes from the French, meaning to shelter.
Comes from the French? Sorry, dude. The only French I know is escargot and Pinot Noir.
Well, I will tell you that the correct answer is garage.
Son of a buzzard.
You know what sucks even more about that is that I actually am sitting in my garage right now.
Well, our 4-point question, let's go with same name. The name of which Disney princess is also the name of a county in the state of Iowa, as well as the name of a county in the state of West Virginia? The name of which Disney princess, and there are officially 14 of them, I believe, is also the name of a county in the state of Iowa and the name of a county in the state of West Virginia.
Oh, boy.
Ted, I'm just going to take a guess. I'm going to say Cinderella.
You know, I'm laughing because I just talked about Shelter Me, and that would have been perfect to come back with this question, but that is incorrect. I'm sorry.
Okay, what were the states again?
Iowa and West Virginia. Each of those states has a county and is the same name of what Disney princess?
For some reason, I thought you were going to say Illinois because that would have been Aurora. Shoot. Yeah, my brain was actually working for a hot second before it short-circuited. I don't know. God. Ted, do you want to hazard a guess on this one? Or you...
Yeah, I have one loaded and ready here. I'm sitting here thinking, you know, it's going to be one of the most simple ones that you can think of, and I'm thinking the most ridiculous ones. Rapunzel.
That would be a great name for a county, but incorrect.
I think that's what I'm going to name my own country when I start it.
Rapunzel County, Idaho.
There we go.
God, how many? Okay, you said there's how many Disney princesses?
I believe there's 14 officially.
Okay.
I believe we've name dropped 4 of them so far.
Well, Aurora wasn't a Disney princess, by the way, so.
It was the first thing popped in my head. It sounded like it could have gone with Disney.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like I'm going to say Giselle or something like that. I pass. I have no damn idea.
I want to take one more
There's
shot.
a county
if it's
in the
allowed.
state. Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to say Jasmine.
There's a county in the state of Iowa and West Virginia, both by the name Pocahontas.
Oh.
Oh, that is so wrong. I figured that would be too damn easy.
What did I just say? It was going to be something simple.
And obvious.
Okay, I'm going to give you the final question from this week's Zoom trivia, and then I've got a quick list bonus where you guys can play off and determine a winner.
Okay.
Final question from this week was James Bond title themes. Of all the singers of James Bond title themes, meaning this song is sung over the opening credits to a 007 film, only one is deceased. Who is it? This person was active from 1984 to 2017. Of all the singers of James Bond title themes, and there's been some very notable artists, meaning a song that is sung over the title credits of a 007 film, only one of those singers is no longer with us. And this person was active from 1984 to 2017.
Ted.
Go for it.
And I don't know if she actually did a Bond theme, but for some reason, Crystal Gale is popping in my head.
Believe it or not, Crystal Gale is still with us.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute, which one did Crystal Gale do?
I don't know. I don't know if she did it or not, but that was the first thing that popped into my head.
I guess I should make this easier. This is I'll give Ted the first guess at it. It is a male artist.
Okay. Shoot.
That narrows it down.
And I think because of the 7 teams playing this past Saturday, only one got it correct. The others were shocked that this artist actually did a Bond title theme. And I will tell you guys, he sang the song You Know My Name from the 2006 Bond film Casino Royale.
Oh God, I haven't seen. I've seen that movie, but I've always missed the title intro.
Wait a minute.
George Michael?
Whoa. Wasn't that Soundgarden's Chris Cornell?
Eddie, correct.
How many points?
That was Chris Cornell.
Yeah. Good job.
Because, well, okay, it's like because see, not a lot of people remember the fact that Louis Armstrong actually did a Bond.
God,
I had some guesses of Shirley Bassiter, and she's the only person to sing a Bond theme on more than one film. She actually did 3. Shirley is still with us, born in 1937.
Didn't Shirley do Moonraker?
She did.
For your
I will leave it
only?
up to you guys for the list bonus. Do you want hot dogs or college university colors?
Ted, you pick.
I'll take hot dogs. And how many points did Eddie get for that last question?
Eddie got 8.
Holy crap!
I thought it was a 4. Okay, I'll take 8. Hey,
4 was Pocahontas, but I kind of want to do both of these because I think the hot dog one's going to go super quick.
Okay.
I will start with Ted since he is behind right now.
Yes, I am.
For 2 points apiece, name the top 6 best-selling brands of hot dogs in America. This is excluding store brands, and you know how this works on list bonus. You will give one answer, correct or incorrect. I will go to the other participants. Ted?
All right, so we'll start off with the obvious Oscar Mayer.
Oscar Mayer is second on this list, selling about 80 million Frankenfurters per year. Eddie?
Eddie's going ballpark.
Number 1, 94 million hot dogs per year. So you guys got number 1 and number 2. Good job.
All right, well, the old jingle used to go, hot dogs, Armour hot dogs, so I'm going to go Armour.
Armour is incorrect.
Holy crap, I even remember the commercial. You suck, Armour. I'm never buying one of your hot dogs again, you sons of bitches. Bastards.
I hope, because you only ever hear of them honestly once per year. Thank you, Joey Chestnut. Nathan's.
Number 4 on the list, 28 million per year. Yes, Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest on Coney Island, July 4th.
And Joey Chestnut's normally responsible for eating 3,000 of those. So, hey, what the hell? Tedrick?
Hebrew National.
Hebrew National number 3, 38 million. So we are tied at 2, or is Eddie up?
Ted's missed one. I've gotten, well, no, this is actually my third one coming up. Because Ted led with Oscar Mayer.
I'm 2 for 3.
Mayer,
Eddie's 2 for 2, pending his third guess.
Gotcha.
I'm going to make a wild guess on this one just for... Why not? They do great sandwich meats. Boar's Head.
Incorrect. I will say ballpark 94 million, Oscar Mayer 80 million, Hebrew National 38 million, Nathan's Famous 28 million. Number 5 on the list sells about 31 million hot dogs per year. And number 6, 17 million.
I really wish I paid attention to hot dogs more. Hormel.
Say what?
Hormel.
Incorrect.
Damn.
Incorrect.
Damn. That was actually my guess. Thank you for taking that one from me, Ted.
You're very welcome.
I will tell you, a lot of teams guess Gwaltney, which also with Armour, if it was a top 10, they would both be in that bottom tier in 8 and 9.
No, they don't. I don't think they do hot dogs. Oh God, why not? I love their smoked sausage and their kielbasa, but I'm going to go ahead and say Hillshire Farm.
Damn, you took my answer.
Number 6, Hillshire Farms, $17 million. We are looking for number 5. And it is one word.
And so Ted can tie it, or I can win it outright.
Correct.
I pass.
Oh, God.
The fifth and final on this list, unless Eddie wants to take a stab at it.
You said it's a one-word brand?
Mm-hmm. They sell about 31 million per year.
Then how is it not just popping straight into my head? I mean, I think we'd covered most of the major brands, and even a couple of them didn't actually make the cut. I mean, I've been... Okay, so you said it's not going to be a store name brand, right?
Correct.
So Kroger, Safeway, stuff like that would not have been on the list.
Right. Members Mark, Great Value.
I'm going to go ahead and pass. I have no idea.
Not Jerry Sags, but Brian's. Brian's.
Never heard of him.
Brian, yeah, Brian does sandwich meat as well.
Do you gentlemen want to tackle the other one?
Nah.
Yeah, no, I've got to bounce here. I've already gone 30 minutes over what I should have.
Yeah, time gets away from us when we start doing the trivia questions, and I love them, but still, that's why we said 3. But you know us, we're junkies. We can't stop at 3.
Oh yeah.
It's like Lay's. Bet you can't answer just one. Or actually, Lay's. Bet you can't put just one on your credit card. Okay.
Wow.
And remember, she doesn't take American Express. Or does she? That is to discover later.
By the way, I wanted to throw this quick shameless plug out there because some people have messaged me and still been kind of on the fence about how Zoom trivia works. For example, Eddie resides in Alabama. Ted is in Idaho. Long drive, but they could still be on the same team. When you log into Zoom via the invite that I provide, you will be in our Zoom meeting. We will take roll call of who's going to be a team. Just like what I've done here on this very program, I will read the question twice, and then you will be sent to breakout rooms per your team. Meaning if it were just Ted and Eddie, they would be sent to a breakout room for 2 minutes where they would discuss their answer or answers. No other teams could see what you're discussing, and then you will type in via the chat the answer to me. No one sees the answer you turn in. So it's actually a pretty cool format and very simple to use.
And don't do like Big E and get caught trying to Google it. Which that was priceless. Tell you what,
Eddie, real quick, and I'm sorry, I know we all got to bounce, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask Ted this very question I asked you the last time we did the program. This isn't for trivia or for points. I just want to see if Ted could get it. Who is the only pro wrestler to compete at the first 9 WrestleManias besides Hulk Hogan?
That would be Bret Hart.
If he was at WrestleMania 1, you'd have it.
Oh, that's right. He made his debut at 2. Hang on. Give me one more crack at this one. Tito Santana?
He got it.
Holy crap.
Wow. Tito Santana. Good job.
Thank you. At least, okay, I lost, I lost the show. I'm going to give Shane 5 more points just because he had some great questions. Eddie wins the show at 48 points. Shane comes in at second with 45. I came in third with 41, and that means that Phil ended up losing by a score of 100 with negative 133. Or, no, I'm sorry, 134.
To which, of course, we will steal Drew Carey's line. Yes, it's all made up and the points don't matter. But the points are...
But you know what? On Tuesday when you do the show with Phil, you should just bring it up just to rub it in a little bit. I'll even stop what I'm doing on a Tuesday night because I normally Twitch stream, so I can't listen to what you're doing. I might even cancel my Twitch stream on Tuesday just to hear that. And then when I hear it, I'll go stream it.
Inform the president of wrestling that he needs to make sure his polls are up and his points are up.
Yes. He has a lower approval rating than Donald Trump right now. That's a quote.
Damn. You really aren't going to make this sign out easy, are you?
Nope.
Ted Guinness, last call.
I got nothing. I've said I've let out so much ridiculous crap over the last 2 hours. I've used it all up. So, see you next week, everybody.
Shameless and Social, real quick.
Fireminder on Amazon Books, $6. The next one comes out July 31st. Fingers crossed. I'm goddamn writer's block. Social, no. Nah, I got nothing.
Or buy a beer. There you go.
No, don't even buy a beer. I don't want you following me on Twitter. I got 200. I have 200 followers on Twitter. I know like 4 of them. The other ones, I have no idea who or why they're following me anymore. I don't even tweet.
Shane Knowles, last call. And Shameless and Social.
If you'd like to join in on Zoom trivia, hit me up at ShaneKnowles@gmail.com. Shane Knowles on Instagram, Snapchat, as well as Facebook. Would love to have you because you probably heard me talk about trivia. You've heard these guys take their stabs at answering the questions. Who knows what you might know this Saturday night at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. For last call, I just want to say 2020 is our punishment for Burger King selling a taco.
Hold on. I got to stand up for that one. That was amazing.
Oh, thank you. Hey, are points still being awarded?
No, the scoreboard has closed, but I'll tell you what, next week you get a 10-point jump.
Oh, wow.
Points are still being added for next week.
It's your money in the bank, baby.
Wrong answer.
I'm going to start using that one. Especially when I get it wrong.
Wrong answer.
Thank you, Paul Heyman. Sorry about what happened on Creative, dude. It's been a tumultuous few weeks. I've really enjoyed the ride. I've been asked on about 30 different occasions about the status of Buffalo Wild Wings and a couple other places. It is. I've had great conversations with B-Dubs Alabaster, as well as a couple other locations, as well as a couple of other bars in Birmingham and in Shelby County. Sorry, not really that interested in working Birmingham proper anytime soon. Sorry, folks. But as far as the overall scenario, yes, the returns are in place, and as situations progress in respective markets, we're addressing it on a weekly basis. Also from there, yes, I have been accepting, and the dates for the final quarter of the year, October, November, December, the dates are filling up fast for everything from Halloween parties, birthday parties, wedding receptions, all of the above. So I normally just tell people, go ahead and find me, facebook.com/FastEddieLane. I would normally say I'll accept it through Full Range Entertainment at Yahoo, but I've had a problem with Yahoo's email server. So I'll have to fix that in the very near future. I'm sorry, folks. So like I said, facebook.com/FastEddieLane, the easy way to find me. If you've got a special event coming up in the very near future, I will be more than happy to sit down and talk over details with you. Also, 4th of July weekend, book solid. One pool party and one wedding reception already in place. And if things are falling in and around that weekend area, like I said, I only take one event per day. I do not double book. This ain't pro wrestling on that side of the board. I don't double book myself. because setting up and tearing down a PA system in light rig is a pain in the ass. Trust me on that one. But, you know, I'm taking a look at so many things going on right now as far as in the world of wrestling and the world of sports. And I'm still of the a guardedly optimistic mindset that we are slowly but surely making our way back in the world of sports. There's some facets of things that are going on that I'm still questioning, because those who know me realize I very rarely ever take anything purely at face value. So there's always something going on, and there's always another question left to be asked. And don't be afraid to ask it. If you're not sure about the way things are shaking out, ask the question. The truth never hurt anybody. Trust me.
The truth is out there.
Unless, of course, she simply sits back and says, yes, it was you and not me. But
or you're Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh.
How many times have we heard the lie? It's not you, it's me. No, this time the truth is there. Yes, it's you, not me. But at Beyond Ringside on Twitter, Facebook.com/Beyond Ringside, as well as Facebook.com/Beyond Ringside Live. If you are in the world of sports and sports entertainment, pro wrestling, and you have an upcoming live event, it doesn't matter if it's empty arena. It doesn't matter if it's a free show. It doesn't matter if it's a pay-per-view. Get in touch. BeyondRingside@gmail.com. Calendar's coming back little by little, and as we get more dates of live events coming up, we're going to start sharing over through BeyondRingside.com and look at that top menu bar and find calendar and click on it. But send us the information, because I'm not a mind reader, and I work an average of 65 hours a week right now, so I don't have time to go looking for events. So if you want to promote your upcoming live event, send it to us. BeyondRingside@gmail, and it'll go up on the site, and it'll be mentioned right here on the show, both on Tuesday and Thursday. It's that damn simple. Willing to work with you, but you got to help us out on that. I'm not looking for money on the deal unless you want us to come out and do, you know, special live appearances. We can do that. But once again, we're willing to work with you on getting your show out there, because that's the original mission statement for this show. If we can help one person who's never heard of your company, never heard of your promotion, find your promotion, mission accomplished. Because one more can lead to two more, can lead to four more. The opportunities are endless. Folks, we're going to call it. Once again, Beyond Ringside Live will be returning on Tuesday night, 8:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. Mark Mabo Bowman, Phil Stamper. Gallery back in place 1 week from tonight. Same bat time, same batty channel. For Shane Knowles.
The only time you want to hear "It's not you, it's me" is at the Bunny Ranch.
Oh, son of a buzzard. I was trying to find... What? There you go. And it was on the wrong palette. For Ted Guinness.
Hey Shane, Dennis Hoff called. He wants you to stop by the ranch this weekend.
Yeah. I'm the Magic City Motor Mouth, Fast Eddie Lane, saying join us right here next time as we all go Beyond Ringside on the Shooters Gallery edition. Bye for now.